The situation here, guys. Okay, everything you're telling us was pre-64, okay? This is a different ballpark. Second off, here is the issue. There's no dispensaries in northern Marin. We've got Nevada with 50,000 people with no dispensaries, okay? And it's been our experience in this area that most dispensaries, 90% of the people are going for recreational marijuana. You seem like nice people and the most medically oriented that I've met, okay? But this isn't realistic because we have no place for the recreational user to get marijuana and it's legal, okay? So there's no way you're gonna differentiate. Most of the people who prescribe marijuana, all you gotta say is you got back pain, okay? We've already polled people that are members of the other dispensaries in the area, and most of them are for recreational use. I'm not saying yours isn't, but there's no other dispensary. So you're unfortunately, about 10 years ahead of your time in this area until we get dispensaries for recreational use. People are gonna try and get into dispensaries like what you've got for the recreational use because there's no other thing. We've even had people say, we like a dispensary here because when we go to a music concert, we don't like to drive to Katati to get our marijuana to go to the concert.
You know,
Okay?
I thought that would happen.
But you've got 30 dispensaries
So
and
the
it was
day after it
364.
passed, November 9th, I said, we need extra security, we need extra staff. I thought people were gonna be lined up out the door. Not a single person came in trying to get in that was a recreational user on November 9th. And since then, we've had a number of phone calls.
You don't know how many members you have of your dispensary that are recreational users. There's no way to tell.
We actually asked for a diagnosis, and we are very strict on
But that's
whether or not.
Look, we all know that there's plenty of ways for someone to go to a doctor and get a prescription for marijuana, so let's not play the game. We know that can be readily done by just about anybody. So,
They can drive
how
over
many
to
members,
Berkeley,
excuse me,
right?
how many members
They
do
can.
you have in your cooperative in Sacramento? You haven't answered that question.
So we see 100 patients a day, and we have around 20,000 patients. But we see, that's the most we see in a day is 100, it's usually less than that. Some patients come once a month, some patients come one time, some patients come every couple days. It depends on how much they can afford and what their needs are, what their illness or disorder is. And just as easy it is for you to walk into your Western medicine doctor and say, I have pain, I need a pain prescription. I'm depressed, I need an antidepressant, please write me a prescription for that. As easy as that is for you, you know, you're kind of saying that's as easy as it is for somebody else to get a natural, non-toxic recommendation for a natural, non-toxic medicine. The doctors want to help their patients, and they know the benefits of medical cannabis. And that's why, you know, it's just as easy to get a pharmaceutical as it is a recommendation for medical cannabis.
So can I go back to the question, you were figuring out how many people would be allowed in this collective?
Yeah, according to my calculations, it's around 1,800 to 2,000 patients.
Total.
Yeah.
And yours is 20,000 up there?
Ours is 20,000, but Sacramento is we have a lot of people coming through the area.
Where do you
And
start at?
that is 8 years worth. So all those patients aren't active. We probably have around, I think, 3,000 active patients. But overall, the last 8 years, that's how many people have signed up with us.
Could you tell us what are the hours that you run your dispensary up in Sacramento?
From 9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
7 days a week?
7 days a week.
Thank you.
Is that
What
what
are your
this would
plans,
be?
Susie, for here,
It
your
would be the
hours and
same.
your days?
If you're gonna close between 3 and 7 because of traffic, what are you gonna do?
If we have no business then?
No, they would be open. It says
They're not gonna leave the
possible.
system.
No, you mentioned that you might stop traffic during that time,
Yeah, we're
but
trying to not have, we would urge patients not to come then and hopefully, offer an incentive like discounted rates in the morning and the evening, so to urge patients to come at those times to avoid the high traffic times, that's a possibility for
Kimberly was
reducing
saying
traffic.
earlier to us that she's actually found that her busiest hours in Sacramento, and I would say the same was true in Beverlywood, were, before 3 and after 7,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, it was interesting when Susie asked me that question, and I'm like, oh, well, what hours are they concerned about? Let me look at, and we tally, every time someone walks in, the security guard writes it down, and I looked at it, and I'm like, well, actually, we are busiest in the morning, and in the evening. From 3 to 7, that's actually our slowest time, so, I don't, people are stuck in traffic then. I don't know.
Question, if this is about medical marijuana, why do we need a budsman there? Most of the stuff that's medical there is all legal, in a sense. Now, particularly since 64, why would you have a budsman to prescribe bud tender?
It's just a
That's
Okay,
term.
really-
most of that is gourmet pot for recreational users. The stuff you have here is medical marijuana, and most of it is good, is legal now in California. Why would we even need a dispensary?
Well, if it's legal, you need somewhere to purchase it.
Well,
Okay.
then why would you need the buds?
Well, since
Tender.
it's legal,
It's just a term.
you
It's
have
a
to
term
have
for-
somewhere
Well,
to
no, you're
purchase it.
selling buds, you're selling recreational marijuana.
No, that's not what bud tender means. It just, it started off as a slang term, and it's become just kind of accepted that the people that wait on you when you go to a dispensary are called bud tenders.
So you're
But
not,
that doesn't mean that they only sell bud, and it
Okay.
also doesn't mean that there's really any correlation to when you go to a bar and have a bartender.
so you're not gonna be selling any smoking marijuana there?
And they of course sell also smoking marijuana.
Well, you know,
That's
But
not just
both,
for
both are available.
Yeah.
okay, that isn't particularly medically inducive like what you're trying to say there.
Well, smoking is sometimes medically appropriate.
Yeah.
There are
Hmm.
people that really do get benefits from smoking certain strains, and so there are medical benefits from smoking as well. I understand, you know, that's not normally what we think of. You know, Cheech and Chong movies don't really look like medical.
Can I ask some questions about the security guard?
Yeah,
Is that person armed?
no,
And is that person inside or outside the facility?
one inside.
One inside, okay. So if anything happens outside, we call the sheriff? Is that, or do you guys take care of problems outside?
I think that we should have a security personnel on the exterior as well.
Oh, so you'd have two security?
And then
Yeah.
there's cameras inside and out.
Yeah, and cameras.
So you'd have two security guards, so you'd have 7 staff at all times?
So,
So you'd have a security guard, a receptionist?
yeah, that would add an additional
something
employee
else.
if we had the exterior.
The way we do it
That's
is
not how I
we have,
originally planned.
we have security cameras on the entire periphery of the building, which our neighbors really like. Our neighbors have come to us on multiple occasions asking to look at our security cameras.
Why is that?
Because there's many transients in our neighborhood, and
Many?
so,
Many.
in downtown Sacramento, yeah. It's a major problem in our neighborhood, and, so we've had, you know, bicycles stolen before, we've had, trash thrown all over the driveway by somebody. These are not our patients doing these things, by the way, but, our neighbors, actually one of my neighbors today told me she's very thankful for our security guard because right across the street, there's a coffee shop ran by 2 women, and they've had to call us a number of times to have the security guard come help them get a transient out of their building and move on their way. We do have the security guard handle the situation first, and we've never had to call the police. We've actually never had any crime associated with our dispensary in 8 years. But yeah, the security guard would be able to go outside if they see anything going on the cameras. The neighbors obviously will have the phone number to call if they have any problems. And then the police, since it is a legal business, the police do support us and can be called if necessary.
So the cameras are running all the time and there's people inside watching them?
Yes. Yeah. There's a security screen at the front desk. The manager will have one and the security guard will have one.
Along with that security question, we all live here, and the amount of contractors that park at Rossi's and drink beer on Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays, it's a big deal. I mean, there's lots of people. We know alcohol and driving don't mix, but there's no sheriff. He comes once every 4 days and does a drive-by. So
Yeah.
who's gonna enforce the same contractors from getting their beer and their bud and sitting in the gazebo and getting high and drinking like they do and getting on the road with my wife and my kids, because there is no other pathway for us to drive on. So what are you gonna say about that? Because we're families, we have kids. When I was 14, my friend died in a head-on collision in Woodacre, I grew up here, because they were drinking and smoking weed. That affected me my whole life. So now my son is 16 and getting his driver's license, and he's gonna drive by Rossi's every single day. And there's gonna be people driving, and don't tell me they're not gonna be smoking weed outside.
No, they won't, we'll stop.
Who?
Well-
You and what army?
No, a real security guard.
He's gonna say,
Never-
get up and get in your car and
First
drive
off,
away.
Oh, yeah.
so.
In a hot-
so
in a
first
hot-
we have
in a
one
hot
Well,
security
how do
area.
you
guard
suppose
inside
we
on
enforce
our-
that?
Huh?
What
You
would
can't enforce it, just like Rossi's.
It's
They're
First of all,
drinking
they
beer
would lose
out
their
there in the parking
membership.
lot all day long.
They would immediately lose their membership and never be allowed
How many
again.
memberships have you taken away?
We have taken a number of, we have a band
Out of
patients
20,000?
file. Yeah, so.
Why did you take them
The
away?
patients, so we have a number of rules which we've brought and we want your input, you know. One of our rules is no smoking within 3 blocks. So if we see anyone smoking marijuana at all in the whole property or anywhere in the neighborhood,
You're gonna revoke
we
their
go
license.
up to
Oh, yeah.
them, we tell them, you have signed
This
these
is an honest
rules.
question. When was the last time you took someone's license away
Probably
for
last week,
smoking in front of your building?
probably last week.
So
We-
it happened last week, they were
banned a
smoking in front of your
number
facility.
No, I think the last person we
Which one
banned.
is it? Did you take it
was-
away or not?
Oh, they do.
The
it's
last
surprising.
patient we banned was yelling at our staff inappropriately and treating us very disrespectfully. We have banned a number of patients who have smoked in our parking lot or in our neighborhood. We've banned patients for parking in our neighbor's parking lot. We've banned patients for, one patient was looking in a car next to it and kind of acting
Scoping it
like
out.
they might be breaking into it, so we banned that patient. But out of these, 20,000 patients in 8 years, we probably have to ban someone maybe every 6 months. There's a patient who doesn't follow the rules. And patients don't wanna lose their membership. I mean, these dispensaries are hard to find and these people are good people. These are normal people, like you.
Except for the one breaking in the car.
Well, within every group of people, there's a spectrum. Within any group, there's good people and there's bad people. We can't have every one of our patients be a perfect model citizen.
It just doesn't make sense. We have nothing except that store. Nothing.
No, the store's gonna stay there, honestly.
No, I get you. My son will go down and buy his soda pop and his little chewing gum and walk around the bud store.
Right.
But my point is, San Rafael doesn't want you, Novato City doesn't want you, Sinnasumba doesn't want you, Mill Valley doesn't even want you. They gotta push you into that little unincorporated area. Nobody wants you.
That's the truth. Nobody
That's
ever wants these.
obviously
in the neighborhood.
because it's a detriment. So guess what?
I
Don't
think
be
it's a
surprised
detriment, but
that
it's-
since we're the poor people stuck out in the boonies in Blackpoint, we don't want it either. It doesn't make any sense. There's no bus. There's nothing. You're gonna drive in your car. You're gonna go on 37, and someone's gonna get a head-on collision there. Oh, whoopsie! I made my money for the day. That's it.
Well, I hope not, God knows.
I live in Mill Valley and there's one of the applicants is the Dipsy Cafe.
Yeah,
I
but
live
it's
right-
unincorporated. No city in Marin
But
will
I know, but
allow
I
you
still
it.
live, that's like
Except
my
Fairfax.
neighborhood, that is
No,
my
why don't you open
neighborhood.
the one in Mill Valley?
Yeah, why don't you open there?
That, what wasn't,
Wasn't
okay.
available.
He was going to.
right there.
It wasn't
There's
available.
nothing
Someone
here.
else already.
100% of all your customers are gonna drive at least 10 miles to get to the store. No bus, they're gonna take Uber to your store. So that's the ironic thing, is to say that they're not gonna partake in the parking lot, just like Rossi's does not partake of beer. It's ridiculous, and they're gonna get in the car and they're gonna drive on the same road as all of us. And we cannot even take an alternative route. My son rides his bike to San Marin. I can't let him ride his bike. I mean, to say that there's gonna be 100 people coming to buy pot on Atherton, that's insane. That's a depressing thought.
Well, it won't be 100, it would be 60, it wouldn't be 100.
On Friday, it'll be 100.
Well,
Maybe.
I don't think so, I honestly,
We don't
60
believe
was
your
the,
number.
60
That's all
was the
we're
highest, at least this one on Robert Street.
60 a day, you're making maybe after insurance,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
barely,
How are you gonna enforce the rule of
you're
no
barely
smoking
making
within
500.
Okay, listen everyone, the
And that's
camera
fine
can't
with
record
Susie,
this.
that's
I just-
fine with Susie,
That's
if
a
it
good
only
question.
made $500 a day, would you be satisfied, Susie?
Yeah, what?
You said if it made $500 a day, would you bother wanting to have this business?
Yes.
I'm wondering if your guard will
So,
follow people
oh, wait.
to the river if there's a complaint of
Yeah.
people down at the boat launch.
And, well, if any patient wants the guard to walk them to their car, they do, and
But there's a boat launch quarter-mile away. and
The
if-
hangout spot.
Oh.
It's a
it's a
drinking
I
spot.
think
spot
we
to
would
sit
have, we
and
would,
do your thing up there.
now that we're discussing, I think we'd have to have an exterior, a security guard on the outside so that they could police. To make sure that nobody's-
Well, and
Yeah.
what's
That's
the
how
first-
we know
you
he's
know,
smoking,
what is
that's all.
3
Yeah.
blocks here?
Yeah.
3
that's a
blocks
good-
makes
yeah.
perfect sense in
That's a
Sacramento.
good question.
What's 3 blocks here? We have children.
How do you
We have
wash the
families.
blocks?
Right.
We have a boat ramp
Well, we
down
wanna
there.
hear
We
from
already
you.
have, excuse me, don't interrupt me,
Okay,
please.
sorry.
We have a boat ramp down there, and we already have problems with some nefarious kind of people. They aren't real bad. They just smoke a lot of pot, drink a lot of beer, and fish. And it's not safe for our children to hang out at the boat ramp that we have in our own neighborhood, because they are kind of nefarious people. So what are you gonna do to, are you gonna put another guard down there? How many guards are you gonna
No, I
have?
mean, I can't, like.
No, you're right, exactly my point. You can't put a guard down there.
Well, right, but that, I don't really understand, how far?
It just doesn't make sense, it should be in Santa Fe. It should be in any place else than out in the middle of nowhere, in our little neighborhood.
Another thing, the store is a nice place for the kids to go after school.
Yeah.
Or on the weekends, they ride their bikes down there and skateboards and stuff.
So as
Yeah,
far
that's
as
why I
they-
don't want, that's why I wanted to enforce these rules
Their
of no
parents will
loitering
not allow
and not
them.
having,
They won't be
you know.
allowed. Would you let your little kids go down there?
no, that's why I wanna enforce these rules of making sure that people aren't
But
gonna be.
who enforces the rules
you
that
think I won't be
you
able
The
have?
to?
kids won't come down anymore to go to the
We
store.
can't
But you
enforce
think-
them.
you think I won't be able to
It's like
enforce
saying,
the
I
rules of
promise I
keeping
won't
it?
do anything, but trust me.
No, I mean, listen,
You're
we
no
don't want,
regulation.
we
Well, I
wanna
know him
keep your
for 8
support.
years.
If we can gain your support, we're not going to lose it, we're gonna keep it. So we do wanna hear about any concerns and problems, and that really is why we're here tonight. And it is true that it does need to be a two-way conversation. And if you will point out to us what, if something is going wrong, once, let's say, it does ever open, we would wanna hear from you as a group, and especially being the neighborhood group, that this is happening, this is a problem. We will get actively involved in trying to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Well, how will you solve the problem? There's only one road.
Well,
I mean, what
but
can
I'm
you
saying
solve
is,
when there are 100 cars on it?
we're not going to
I don't
have
know
that-
what you
the
can
tra-
do
I
about
think the biggest fear that you have, if it's traffic, you're gonna be pleasantly surprised. This is not going to add a lot of traffic, not this 700 square foot place, it's not going to
Okay.
add a lot of traffic,
You,
honestly.
okay, you've got no parking, period.
They're gonna park in the dirt
No,
rocks
no,
across
the
the street.
parking that
and
you're
they're gonna walk across the
describing
highway.
Yeah.
is the parking for the store. Okay, wait a minute, let me
Okay.
finish, okay? All the store patrons either park in front of the store or
Yeah.
across the street in the dirt lot,
Right,
okay? There is parking there in that parking lot that isn't used because nobody really knows about it, so to say. But what you're describing and using is the parking lot for the store, okay?
Well, that four
So
spaces,
even with
yes.
just your employees, you've got no parking.
Well, again, there is an area for the employees that's separate from the grocery market parking.
Where's that?
It's directly behind the building that I'm.
That is grocery parking now, that was never used.
No one's ever parked there for the grocery because they cannot. There's cars that are broken down back there.
How do you
If you wanna follow us back over there, I'll show them to
Well,
you.
what are we talking, 4 parking spaces?
We're talking 6 parking spaces.
This covers your employees.
That's right. And then we have the 4 spaces that we would be taking from what you're describing as the parking lot. That's correct. We're taking 4 spaces from the grocery
You
market.
can't take parking, that's the minimum space parking that they have already.
No, because we're gonna gain 6 that are at the
You
entrance.
need at least 25.
We don't, because we're not gonna see more than 5
Well,
patients
you
an
got,
hour.
with just your 5 patients per hour
Right,
and your employees,
right,
okay?
yeah.
You're still gonna need at least 12 or 14 parking spots.
Well, I really don't think at one time, not at one time we're not at the same time.
Okay, I'll tell you where the people are gonna park. They're
Okay.
gonna work where they do right now, in the dirt lot across,
Across the
and
street.
walk across. And I've already lost a couple customers in that area riding bicycles have been hit by cars, okay?
Yeah.
So you're walking across that, it's a 35-mile-an-hour speed limit, okay?
Mm.
You're gonna walk across that road, and I'm sure all your patients are sober when they come to the store, But still, this is going to
And
be,
ambulatory.
this is going to be an issue here. So you guys seem like great people, but this, and if it all worked like you described, fine. But we're in a new era here. We got 64, we got a town of 50,000 people with no dispensary, okay? And they're gonna be, this is gonna be the only dispensary in the area. So, you know, if there was 30 other dispensaries in Marin that were legal, this might work, but we don't have that right now, okay?
understand.
This is 10 years before its time. We need we need the dispensaries for recreational use to be set up, and then a dispensary like this would be great, because you truly are seemingly trying to dispense medical marijuana,
Yeah.
okay? And we could probably learn a lot from you on that, but the recreational part here
Mhm.
is not gonna work, being right, sure, and I don't think the county of Marin's gonna okay these plans anyway. You got no idea how hard it is to go, you know, to get through the planning department. You're years away from this happening, besides for the application.
Right, well, as I said, I went through 2.5 years in Malibu, and you know, you may well be right about how long it takes to get through that kind of a process, you're right. But I do believe that, I know this much, that if it ever did get open, that Susie, you know, would be the
Yeah.
kind of person you'd want running it.
I think so.
And she would be sensitive to these concerns, and they're legitimate, you know, but I do think that, the traffic won't be as big a problem as you imagine. I don't know, you know, some of the other things, that you're, you know, talking about, but definitely, the traffic will be minimal because, as Kimberly said, you can limit the number of patients a day by stopping accepting new patients. And that's something we did at Beverlywood, and that's something that she's done in Sacramento. So there is a valve that you can turn on and off.
Well, that should be in the plan, that there's a maximum amount.
It is actually, and it's one of the things that was in the application to get licensed was exactly how many patients you're gonna see a day and what you're gonna do to try to keep that number.
No, not try and keep it, that would
Well,
have to be
or to-
written in there.
Yeah.
This is 2,000 patients is our maximum, or whatever, I would suppose.
Yeah, well, we certainly.
But you
do
still have
whatever
no
it
way
takes.
of regulating who's for recreational. and
Well,
who's for
recreation will probably happen in the cities, this is what's expected, in the big cities before it'll happen in the smaller communities. So San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, maybe we'll go ahead and do recreational. And maybe they won't do it right away either, but I'm thinking they will in Oakland, because Oakland's been very generous about giving out cultivation licenses lately, and they're likely to they need the tax revenue, and I think they're more likely to open up recreational sales.
Well, they already really do.
Well,
That's
in a
what-
way,
yeah.
but they still
I mean,
need.
that's what medical dispensaries in Oakland do, and I think there's probably 30 already in
Right,
it.
well, two of the biggest ones in California are both in
Right,
Harborside and Berkeley Patients Group are
Yeah.
the two biggest.
Yeah.
One does 24
and
million
that's
a year.
basically recreational marijuana, okay? So, I mean,
It's both.
that has already
It's
come
both.
up, yeah.
Yeah, it is, you're right,
Yeah.
it's both.
So, it's unfortunate right now, we're caught up with Novato, which has no dispensaries, they closed
Right.
down the only dispensaries,
I see.
okay?
Yeah, I know
And
they
they
closed the
just
one in
passed a-
Fairfax that was there for years.
Yeah, so it's unfortunate, and I have talked to the council members, said, hey, we need to get dispensaries in Nevada, otherwise, we have the Berkeley Dispensary Group wanting to put a multi-million-dollar dispensary
Yeah,
here in Blackpoint,
yeah.
okay?
That's what
Without
I
the
agree.
dispensaries for recreational use in Novato and other areas, this is gonna be focusing too much on little areas like what you're describing, you know?
Right. Well, I
I
understand
remind
your
everyone
concerns.
that, you know, these groups, and I think it was brought up before, that the county picked these 4 sites, and I think if, you know, you and probably the other applicants would much rather be somewhere, you know, that makes more sense with public transportation, near other medical offices,
Are you from the county?
no, I live here in Blackpoint.
Okay.
So I'm a resident and the president of Blackpoint Improvement Club, but I wanted to remind everyone that the county picked these sites. Most of the neighbors and the Blackpoint Improvement Club think this is a bad site for a dispensary, and there's a lot of opposition to it, as you're hearing tonight. We want any business in our neighborhood to be successful. We want Rossi's to be successful, we want Kelleher to be successful, and what a lot of, people here, I'm sure, and nothing, it's not personal against any of you guys, but they want you to be successful, and they're telling you, here's a number of reasons why. Number one, we don't think your business will be successful at this spot. It's unfortunate, many feel, that the county picked this spot, because they don't, for all these reasons that you're hearing, it's not ideal for you guys. It's certainly not sounding ideal to the residents here. Whether you choose, you hear all that, you're hearing these, maybe, some of these things you probably already do, some of the site constraints, but some stuff I'm glad you're here to hear some feedback from the neighbors who are telling you, okay, there's flooding here, there's these issues with the contractors drinking, there's all these extra securities you're saying might be needed. So you're getting that kind of feedback, which, even though the county heard that, they still thought this was a good site. But it's up to you if you decide, I wanna go forward and I still wanna risk this business. We don't want you to go into a risky business and end up spending whatever money you have to spend and so forth and fail. We don't want any business to fail. We don't want the tow truck operator to be shoved out and then learns how, now it's failed, we have this vacant building there. So we want you to succeed. We think you'd succeed better somewhere else, but unfortunately,
Yeah, we do think so.
there's this site that was picked and 3 other sites in the county, and I understand you said they weren't available to you. But, we appreciate, and I think you're hearing this, that you are thinking of taking some steps to address traffic and crime and those sort of concerns. It may not be enough. It's hard to say. There's a lot that's, like I said, what passed this week. Changes that could come. What happened when it goes on in Sacramento. Maybe that model could, and in Malibu could be, maybe that model will exactly work here, but there's a lot of unknowns, and this is a very small community to experiment in. Sacramento, if it didn't work in that neighborhood, you could have gone, there's a lot of other areas to go in, but this is, per capita, we're gonna have 4 dispensaries for